Myken had gone on vacation to the Dominican Republic, and she had said to me that she told Robert, and Robert couldn't seem to care less that she was going. She was kind of hoping he'd say, "Hey, can I tag along?" Meanwhile, I'm thinking, I would love to go along with you. And she said, "You know what? He didn't even ask me to stay in contact." And I said, "I want you to stay in contact with me. I want you to send me pictures every day. I want updates."
Phil, thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited to hear your story, and yours is one with a difference because you are speaking about love. And that is always something that's fascinating to me. So I'm not going to interrupt. I'm just going to ask you what happened and what led you to where you are today.
Well, first of all, Natasha, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on the show, Spiritual Warrior Journey. It's a pleasure to meet you. We've been exchanging emails back and forth, but it's nice to see you face to face, even though I'm in the United States and you're in the Netherlands. And I just love how technology brings us all together. And actually, that's a nice lead in to the story. Um, I'm 61 years old. When I was 58, I've never been married. It had been a very long time since I had been in a romantic relationship, and I'd kind of given up on love. And it was the tail end of the pandemic. And, we all felt very isolated, very disconnected. And I needed some kind of human interaction. And so I joined an online social media app called Clubhouse. A lot of people have not heard of it, but it's kind of like a Zoom meeting like this, but audio only, where you go into virtual rooms and you can converse with folks from all over the world about whatever topic it may be. And I went into a virtual room called an Oracle card reading room. I'm sure your viewers are familiar with Oracle cards, tarot card readings, and so on. And I've always dabbled in that type of stuff. So I thought, ooh, a free Oracle card reading. I'm going to go in and check it out. And on stage was a woman named Myken. Um, and I immediately was taken by her. I have to admit, she was very pretty. I read her little bio. There's a little icon that has the picture of the person, and then there's a biography, and I read her biography, and I was very impressed. And listening to her give readings to folks in the room, she was just, you could tell, very intuitive, very sweet, very kind. Um, it was fair to say I was quickly smitten, although I know that's, in the course of 5 minutes, that's not enough to, like, oh, maybe she's the one. It wasn't that, but I was very taken with her. And she called me up on the virtual stage and she gave me a delightful reading. And the two of us hit it off immediately, and it was beautiful. I really enjoyed her reading. Now, at the very end, she asked me a question. She said, "Phil, I have a sense that you had a particular question you wanted to ask." I had asked for a general reading. Typically, an Oracle card reader will say, "Do you have a specific question, or would you like a general reading?" And I said, "Well, just give me a general reading." She had a sense I wanted to ask about something else. And what I typically do, I have to admit, because it had been so long since I had been in a romantic relationship, I wanted to ask for a love reading, a romance reading. But I decided not to go there. So she said, "I have a feeling you wanted to ask me something specific." And I said, "Yeah, I guess I did." And she said, "Does it have anything to do with a twin flame?" Now, I don't know if you've heard the term twin flame before. Have you heard the term? Okay. Now, I had heard it before, but I always thought it was interchangeable with a soulmate. I just figured it's kind of a soulmate on steroids, but I've since learned it's something completely different. And without going into what it is, I basically said, yes, it was a twin flame question. Now, she said to me, "Well, I can certainly understand that. I'm in my own twin flame relationship right now, and it's been very topsy-turvy." And as she was going on, all I heard was, "Wait a minute. she's in a relationship. Aw, I was so disappointed. And if you were listening to the recording, you can hear my enthusiasm like deflate. We had been there had been a lot of witty banter. We were having a lot of fun. Then when she said she was on her own twin flame journey, it was kind of like, oh, okay. You can hear it in my voice, the disappointment. But anyway, um, but because I was so taken with her, I wanted to continue my connection with her. I thought at the very least, I think she'd make a wonderful friend. And sure enough, what I decided to do was ask her if she would do a longer reading for me, a paid reading. And that's indeed what we set up. And it was supposed to be a 1 hour, one-on-one Zoom session like this. And it turned into 3.5 hours where the conversation was flowing. It was beautiful. And we really, really connected. And I just had a sense that there was something there. So that's the beginning of my story, and I'll stop there for now.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So this is your love. This is the love story we're heading towards.
Yes.
Um, so just, I know you said you don't want to discuss it, but what is the difference between a twin flame then and
Well,
uh,
this is
and a
yeah.
soulmate?
Well, this is my understanding. I'm certainly not an expert, but a soulmate, you can have many different soulmates, family members, friends, romantic interests. They're people that you've probably shared past lives with before that have come back into your life, and you have some kind of soul mission or soul contract you've signed to do whatever we were brought to this in our incarnation to do. A twin flame, from what I understand, is when a particular entity kind of breaks off into two well, not two separate, kind of like twins when twins are born. Um, they can incarnate at the same time, but perhaps they don't go to the same planet or location. But sometimes they do. There are times when they incarnate on Earth and never meet each other. Then there are times when they do meet each other, but that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, that's a romantic partner. Um, and what typically happens, this is what I was told. It's very much like a magnet. When they're held together, that there's a very strong connection. Like I meet you and I immediately feel like I've known you before. They're just as it's like I feel like we've perhaps shared a past life. I just feel very connected to you. But the other part of it that I didn't realize or understand is just like a magnet, if you switch them around, they repel just as strongly as they attract from the other side. And so Myken had explained to me that her relationship had been very tumultuous. It was on again, off again. There were good times and bad times. And she said that's very, very typical in a twin flame relationship. And a lot of the topsy-turviness, if that's a word, is kind of presented to you as lessons to learn and grow and so on and so forth. So back when she had done the reading and asked me about if my question was about a twin flame, and I mistakenly thought it was about, I just wanted to know whether a soulmate might be coming into my life. She assumed I was in my own twin flame relationship, which was also tumultuous, and kind of wanted to commiserate with her. And I won't say that I disappointed her, but that's not where I was at. I was single. But she was, as I said, in the midst of a very tumultuous relationship with Robert. And you know what? It ended up being a blessing because I immediately had to transition to, I'm just her friend. I'm in the friend zone. If she had been available and I had pursued her, I probably would have tried to charm her and impress her. But with that out of the equation, I was myself. There weren't any ulterior motive. I wasn't chasing her. And so the friendship that manifested was genuine. We were very real with each other. Now, becoming friends like that, we exchanged a lot of very intimate details about each other. And again, maybe we wouldn't have done that if I was courting her. And I got to hear many, many stories about Robert, many stories about how he had treated her very poorly, But instead of being upset, she said, well, this is the universe just sending me lessons. And I'm thinking, no, I just I think this guy is a jerk. um, but if you want to look at it like and that's what I did. When she would come to me with some story about what Robert had done to wrong her, what I wanted to say is, don't you see what this guy is doing? He's using you. Would you please dump him and come in my direction? But of course, I didn't say that. I said, I'm sorry, you're dealing with that. If you think it's a lesson, well, I hope that you take it to heart and learn what you need to learn. And good luck to you. And anytime you need to cry on my shoulder here, I'm here for you.
Yeah. So you were single for quite a long time. Is that just because you feel like you were waiting for this lady, or is it because it wasn't the right time for you, or you were just unlucky, maybe?
All of the above. There's never one. And when people say, Phil, how come you never got married? There isn't a simple answer to that. I had been in a long-term relationship that I thought was heading toward marriage, and it didn't work out. Um, and there had been other dalliances, but it was always about timing. It was if I found somebody that I really connected with, perhaps they were in a relationship or a marriage. And so, again, friendship. But again, all of the above. But I had gotten to a point, as I said, I was 58 at the time, where I'd kind of given up. Part of me certainly was hoping for the romantic ending. I remember one of my longer term relationship partners had said to me, Phil, you've watched one too many Nora Ephron films. Now, I don't know if you know who Nora Ephron is. She's
No.
she has since passed away, but she was a movie director, producer, writer of such classic romantic comedies as Sleepless in Seattle and When Harry Met Sally and You've Got Mail. And the basic message to me was like, Phil, that's not how romance works. It's not a storybook. Romance, it's difficult. It's about compromise. There are bumps in the road. You have this idyllic, idea about what romance is going to be like. And so there was still a little part of me, even though I had kind of given up on finding somebody, there was still a part of me that wanted the storybook. And I didn't take kindly to the idea that relationships can't be that way. I think they can. I know they're not perfect, and I know it takes compromise and there are ups and downs, but shouldn't it be magical? Shouldn't it be wonderful? Shouldn't you really feel connected to the person? Pour your love into them, accept love back, have it be unconditional. I still think it can be magical and wonderful. But I didn't think it was going to happen. But then I met Myken. But of course, Myken had Robert. So again, I'm thinking, oh, here's my luck. I find somebody I feel very strongly connected to, and she's not available. Here we go again. So that's where I was in that situation.
Okay, so go on. Let's see
Okay.
what happened.
Okay. So here's what happened. And it's funny. I'll jump in. Myken had gone on vacation to the Dominican Republic. And she had said to me that she told Robert, and Robert couldn't seem to care less that she was going. She was kind of hoping he'd say, hey, can I tag along? Meanwhile, I'm thinking, I would love to go along with you. And she said, you know what? He didn't even ask me to stay in contact. And I said, I want you to stay in contact with me. I want you to send me pictures every day. I want updates. I want to know how it's going. And she did that. And she had a wonderful, wonderful vacation. So when she got back, she contacted him and said, hey, I'm back. And he never even responded. And when she said she was back to me, I said, well, I want to talk to you. So we got on the phone and she told me all about it. And it was a wonderful conversation. She said she had a fantastic time, but there was only one thing. Her stomach had been hurting. It wasn't like overly painful, but it was like a tummy ache that she had for the entire week she was there. She said, I didn't let it ruin my vacation. She said, but it just hasn't been going away. She said, you know what? If my vacation had started today or next week, I may have canceled it because, the stomach ache just isn't going away. But I'm glad I went. I had a wonderful time, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, fast forward a little bit. the stomach pains continued. Um, we couldn't figure out what it was. And to cut to the chase, after some exploratory procedures, they determined that she had stage 3 ovarian cancer. Oh my God. 48 years old, not expecting this. She was very healthy, led a very healthy lifestyle, had a lot of energy. Um, Shocking. And the first person she called was me. And she told me, and of course, we cried, we laughed, but we both came to the conclusion that she's going to beat this. I mean, no doubt about it. She's going to beat this. The second person she called was Robert. Robert said, well, good luck with that. See you later. And bailed on her. Said, you'll be in my thoughts, but I'm just not available to help you with this. And that was devastating to Myken. She, of course, was hoping he'd swoop in and be by her side. And he basically said, no, I'm not going to do that. And, the devastation, however, quickly turned to, you know what, I'm done with this guy. For 2 years, I've been chasing him. It's been on again, off again, hot and cold. I have a cancer diagnosis and he's bailing on me. I deserve better than this. She said, Phil, I'm going to face this alone. I'll face it bravely. But you know what? I wish I did have a significant other. She said, right now, for example, my back is really hurting. If Robert was here or if I had a significant other, it would be wonderful if he was here right now just to give me a back rub and just to assure me everything was going to be okay. She said, I have to admit, it's going to be tough not to have that while I'm facing this. And it was at that very moment I decided I'm jumping in with both feet to play the role of the de facto boyfriend and support her however I could. Now, I'm in upstate New York. She lived in Arizona. And so there was the 3,000 miles between us, but I figured, okay, I'm going to jump in. Now, I didn't jump in thinking, well, if Robert's out of the picture and I'm jumping in, does that make me her boyfriend? Is she my girl? Throw all of that out the window. Throw all the, hey, I want a relationship. All I know is that she needed love and support, and I was going to give her my full and unconditional love and support. And she was so grateful. She accepted it. And I helped her. I would send her funny memes every day and little messages of encouragement, and I would check in on her a lot. It was just, we talked on the phone for hours and hours every day. Now, but she continued to get worse. And she had she had a surgery, and the surgeons kind of botched it a little bit. They accidentally punctured one of her organs. And the upshot is it quickly turned to stage 4 ovarian cancer. And whereas we had been confident she was going to beat it, all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, maybe she can't make it. And that was difficult. And I could tell you more, but do you have any thoughts or questions at this point?
No, carry on.
Carry on. Okay. Now, a lot of people have said, well, you must have gotten on a plane and flown out to Arizona. At one point, we had had a phone conversation. She has 4 adult children, one of whom was taking care of her, but the son was very overwhelmed. It's a lot of work to take care of a sick, relative. And she needed a lot of care, a lot of help. So at one point, we had a conversation where she kind of jokingly said, Phil, my son's struggling. Why don't you just come out here and take care of me? Now, I couldn't tell whether she was joking, whether she was serious, but I thought about it and I'm thinking, okay, should I go out there and take care of her? And I'm thinking, I've only known her for 4 months. For most of that time, we've just been buddies. We've been friends. She's had Robert in her life. And even though I've jumped in as the de facto boyfriend, I'm not actually her boyfriend. I'm thinking, would it be crazy for me to fly out to take care of her? So what I did was I hopped on the phone with my brother and I told him the whole story. I said, Steve, would it be crazy for me to fly out to Arizona to take care of Myken? And he said, absolutely. He said, it's nuts. You don't even know her. You've never met her, you know. And, and, and I'm so then I started weighing the pros and cons. It's like, well, I think I'm falling in love with her. I think it would be appropriate for me to fly out there. Then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I've got a job. If I go out there, I can really probably only go out there for a week. If she's really deteriorating, could I pull myself away from that situation and leave her after a week? Then I'm thinking, well, that shouldn't matter. If I'm falling in love with her and I feel so tight and she needs, you know, in-person support, you'd think it would be a no-brainer. I'd fly right out there. And then I'm thinking, well, I'm also not a nursemaid. You know, I'm not a trained medical professional. I'm not sure what I could. I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And everybody thinks in this part of the story, I must have flown out there. Well, I didn't. I decided not to fly out. And it was one of my biggest regrets. And I know we shouldn't have regrets. But knowing what I know now, I would have gone in a second. But back then, it's like, well, but I can still support her from afar. And people told me when I told people afterwards of my decision, they said, Phil, you are practically strangers, as tight as you feel to her. Believe me, nobody else would jump in and do what you've done. To fly out there would be way above and beyond what anybody else would do. Just the fact that you've been calling her all the time and sending her, you know, funny things to cheer her up and giving her little gifts. And I made an inspirational video for her. I did everything I could think of. And they're like, Phil, that's more than enough. And it's like, okay. But I still went back and forth. And to make a long story short, it was only a couple of months later, on December 13th of 2022, Myken passed away. Talk about devastating. My regret again grew even further. Like, oh my God, I'm in love with this woman, and I think she could be my soulmate. And I never even met her in person. I had an opportunity to go out there, and I didn't. So conflicted. But I put that aside for the time being. She had passed away. This beautiful, bright light had been extinguished in like the blink of an eye. She had so much she wanted to do. I had mentioned at the beginning that she had given me oracle card readings. She was a very gifted medium and intuitive, and there was so much she wanted to do. She, as I said, lived in Arizona. She lived in a beautiful home she nicknamed the Sanctuary. She wanted to hold spiritual retreats at the sanctuary. She wanted to write a book. She wanted to travel the globe, encouraging people to be their highest and greatest good. And I'm thinking, how dare the universe take her away from being able to accomplish all of that? She had so much she wanted to do. Now, in retrospect, now that I'm thinking back, she can do much more from the other side than she could have done in her physical body. Now, again, it's all what you believe, and I'm guessing again that you, Natasha, and the people that are watching this interview right now, I'm guessing they believe that there are such things as past lives and that our soul continues on beyond this realm. And anyway, Myken has become my guardian angel from the other side, and she's done more for me on the other side than what she probably could have ever done in her human form. My love for her has grown in a very profound way. I love her more today than I did when she passed away. I think it's a beautiful love story, and one you would think, okay, she passes away, that's the end of the story. All that's left are the what ifs and reminiscences about wonderful times, but you'd think that's where the story ends. Well, that's where the story just begins. Oh my God, I can't believe all the signs I get from her, synchronicities, all the proof she sent me that she's still with me. It has been amazing. And one of those things is that I actually felt compelled to write a book about our love story. I'm figuring this is unlike any love story I've ever heard. You know, a love story is typically boy meets girl, boy falls for girl likes other boy treats girl badly, dumps her. Then the first boy swoops in, takes her, and they live happily ever after. Well, that this story has all of those components, but the happily ever after, you'd think, well, that didn't come to fruition. We never met, and she passed away. However, in this case, our love story, we did consummate our love. We have grown. In many ways, I feel like we have met because she's with me right now. I asked her to be with me for this interview. I said, please make this go well. Please be with me. Make sure I'm articulate. Make sure I cover everything I need to. She's here with me. And actually, so I was compelled to write, and I just self-published Heartstrings into Infinity last month. I got the title. There's a quote that says, those we love and lose are always connected by heartstrings into infinity. And when I saw that quote, I said, that's the title of my book.
Yeah.
And so I've spoiled a lot of what's in the book by telling you the story, but there have been so many incredible things that have happened. I'd love to share a few with you, but again, I'll pause in case you have any thoughts or questions.
Yeah. I know you said you've had regrets, but there must have been a reason why you said no.
There were several reasons. One of the biggest reason, and this has been confirmed, and it was probably a good thing I didn't go. One of my other concerns is she had the 4 adult children. She also had an ex-husband who had been out of the picture, but he came back in the picture to help the kids take care of her. So all of a sudden he's hanging around. And I'm thinking, I don't know if any of these people even know I exist. What would they think if this guy from New York all of a sudden flew in to take care of their ex-wife or mother? They'd be looking at me like, who is this guy? And that bothered me as well. I'm thinking it would be very awkward. Maybe she has told them about me. And you know what? That was a legitimate concern because I found out after the fact that she had a lot of old wounds, especially with the ex-husband, some wounds she needed to clear up with her family. They all ended up pulling together to take care of her at the end, and those wounds were mended. If I had been there, I would have, mucked everything up. They needed the time to sort all that out. If I was there, that would have made everything confusing and discombobulated. So in retrospect, that's the one thing I hang my hat on. Like maybe it was better I didn't go out. She needed to heal that. That was more important. And again, because she's still with me, the regrets have waned a little bit. And the reason she's with me as a guardian angel is because she was so appreciative that I just dove in head first and poured in so much love at the end. She decided she wanted to quote unquote pay me back by being a guardian angel. And how I found that out is Myken had a friend who lived in Dubai named Alia. Now I had heard the name, but I'd never met her before. All of a sudden, I got an email from Alia that said, "Hi, Phil. I know you were very close to Myken, and I'm so sad that she passed away. But if you're open to it, I'd like to talk to you about her." Now, I had mixed feelings. I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I don't know what she wants to talk about. I know she was a friend of Myken's, and why is she reaching out to me, a stranger? Anyway, I went in very nervous, but we had a Zoom call like this. She was nervous as well because what she wanted to talk to me about is she received a channeled message from Myken saying, you need to contact Phil. I want to be his guardian angel, but here's what I want you to ask him to do. Ask him if he's interested in that, to light a white candle for 5 nights in a row. And if he does that, I will be his guardian angel. Now, whereas I was nervous, not knowing what this person wanted, she was nervous because she didn't know what my beliefs were. She was worried that I think she was a crazy person. Like, Phil, I got this channeled message. What? She didn't know. But it worked out so beautifully because I do believe in that stuff. And The two of us became fast friends. We comforted each other. She was very upset, so I comforted her. I was obviously distraught. She comforted me. Um, but I'm thinking, wow, what are the odds of a stranger contacting me out of the blue with a channeled message that from Myken? I'm thinking, aha, there's something there. There was something else that happened. And again, you could chalk this up to coincidence. I don't. The day after she passed, I said, Myken, I want you to send me some kind of sign to let me know you made it safely to the other side. I said, but don't make it something nebulous or something that can be interpreted in several different ways. Make it something very plain and obvious. And I was trying to think, well, what could that be? And I was scrolling through Facebook that day and I came across a meme with an inspirational quote on it that sounded like something Myken might say, and it had a little picture of a cardinal in the corner of it. And I said, okay, Myken, there it is. I want a cardinal to be the sign. Now, I wasn't thinking it would be an actual cardinal. It was the middle of December. I live in upstate New York. Snow was on the ground. It was freezing cold. I hadn't seen a bird near my apartment in several months. I lived in my apartment complex for about 20 years, and I recall maybe seeing a cardinal once in that 20 years. They're just not that common in this area. So I was thinking it would be more like I'd be thumbing through a magazine and I'd come across a picture of a cardinal or something of that nature. Um, well, the next morning I woke up and I noticed my cat was staring out the sliding glass door that leads out onto the deck of my second floor apartment. And she's looking at something in the bush outside, outside. And she's looking and looking. And I said, Chloe, what are you looking at? Now, I think you probably know where I'm going with this story at this point. I look out, and in the bush outside the deck is a cardinal. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that is her. Now, I tell people, and I'm thinking a lot of people will say, well, cardinals, and birds are. No, I'm sorry. As I said, I'd only seen one cardinal in 20 years. It was the middle of winter. I hadn't seen a bird in forever. That was her. I don't know if you
And
believe that.
and she got your cat's attention.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, and yes, and my cat is very intuitive as well. So if she's buying into it, then I'm buying into it. So, and I've got 100 more examples of things that have happened that I know have been divinely orchestrated by my dear sweet angel Myken.
I just want to ask you something. Like,
Yes,
from a metaphysical point of view, we
yes.
know that illnesses are caused from trauma. I just found it's not a coincidence that her stomach started hurting on that trip. Um, did she say something about that? Do you think it was related? Because it was, nothing just rears its head out of nowhere. It doesn't start in the blue. Something triggers it. Would it have been maybe Robert saying, I'm not going with you? Or,
She did mention that. She, during the last couple of months of her life, she was speculating why this happened to her. And oh my God, she was so brave and faced it with such poise. On the morning she had her initial surgery, she had received a message from the universe. And she got up the morning of the surgery and she recorded a 3-minute audio recording. She said, I'm having my surgery today. Um, it's kind of scary, but you know what? I got the message that with everything in life, we have two choices. We can either face it with fear or face it with love. And I'm going to face this with love. I think God has given me these cancer cells so I can transmute them and again learn a lesson. When I survive this, maybe I can help other people going through the same thing. She was actually happy in a way that this gift was given to her. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what an extraordinary take on the situation. I probably would have been frightened to death and been very self-centered about it and woe is me. And here she was, just amazing. But that's her. That's Myken. But anyway, along with that, she was speculating, you know, for years, she had, she was a little overweight, not terribly overweight, a little overweight. She had shared with me a story from long ago that growing up, her parents fat shamed her. She had said her husband, she had given birth to their first child. And while she was losing the baby, she said, I was 125 pounds and he was calling me fat. All her life, she was buying in to what everybody was saying. She thought of herself as fat and undesirable and not worthy. And she carried that around in her stomach for years. She said that I think that's what that's what caused the cancer down
Yeah.
here, is that she was buying into that for many years. Thankfully, she had gotten to a point where it's like, no, that's ridiculous. I'm beautiful. I'm worthy. I'm not fat. I'm sorry I bought into it for so long. I think that I've been bottling it up inside for so many years. I think that's what caused it, was that trauma and other traumas. She had suffered PTSD. I won't get into all of it, but she had many traumas. And you're absolutely right, Natasha. A lot of things that manifest with illness is certainly, we know the mind, body, spirit are all connected. So if you've got trauma,
Yeah.
it's going to manifest itself in as an illness or a dis-ease. So yes, she was convinced that that was the biggest piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's now your guardian angel.
Indeed, indeed,
Did she
she is.
help you write the book as well?
She did. I've had my professional life, I've been mostly in marketing and communications. I do a lot of writing. I write company newsletters. I write news. I do a lot of writing. So you think, oh, then it's a natural for Phil to write a book. Well, guess what? I hate writing. And the reason I hate it is because I'm very much ADHD, where it has to be perfect. So if I write a sentence, I'll rewrite it 10 times. It'll take me a half an hour to write a 2-sentence email. And I'm thinking, oh my God, writing a book is going to be a chore. It's going to be it's not going to be fun. I have friends who are writers that love writing. They live to write. I think I'm a very good writer. I'm not a great writer. I think I'm very good. But again, it is a chore. So I was telling all my friends that I really want to write a book about our love story for many reasons. I think it will give folks hope that they can find love later in life, that there can be magical stories. I want to give them hope if they've lost a loved one and think the loved one is gone forever, that no, the loved one is still with you and can be with you as a guardian angel, and your love can actually strengthen and grow even after they're gone. And I wanted to keep her legacy alive. I told you earlier, she wanted to write books. I wanted to carry on what she was doing. And I'm thinking, well, if I write a book about her, people will get to know her. She has a YouTube channel, for example, called The Sanctuary, where she posted spiritual and motivational videos. She only had a chance to post 9 videos. And of course, nobody is going to see them now if she's not alive to promote them. Well, I've been promoting them, and I mentioned the channel in my book, and people have been going and watching her videos, which delights me to no end. And it's just been so wonderful. So as far as the book is concerned, friends told me, Phil, you can't look at it as a chore. It's not like you're writing a college term paper or even a newsletter for work. You've got to look at this as a labor of love. This is a passion. You're writing your loves. That helped me reframe everything. And I started off very slowly, and then it started flowing. And people said, I have a lot of friends who are intuitives and readers, and they gave me readings, and they said, Phil, Myken's going to be with you every step of the way. She's going to help you write this. She's going to encourage you when you're at your wit's end. And that's exactly what happened. Once I started going, it started flowing like crazy. And whereas a lot of people, they take a year or 2 years or 5 years to write a book, I did it in 3.5 months. And I look back and I'm thinking, how did I do that? I don't know where it came from. It's like, I know where it came from. It came from Myken. It was channeled through me. And I wrote the book. And at first I was picky. Like I said, it's like, well, it's not exact. And then it's like, you know what? It's not perfect, but I really, really like it. I think it's done and ready to go. And I'm so pleased and proud that I was able to do it and honor her.
Yeah, amazing. So you mentioned that you had past lives together. Did you do a past life regression? Has she told you? How do you remember these things?
Indeed, I have a very good friend named Bridget, who is a beyond quantum healing hypnosis therapist.
Okay.
And yes, it's very much like Dolores Cannon and that ilk, where I had a 4.5 hour BQH. She calls it a BQH session, which is like a past life regression session
Yeah.
with her.
Yeah.
And I was delighted to find out that Myken and I have had many, many past lives together. For instance, um, I don't have any Native American blood in me, but I've always been fascinated with Native American history. I remember as a child, I went to a museum and they had a replica of an Iroquois longhouse. And we were inside, and I'm looking around, I'm thinking, this feels so familiar. And everything Native, I read a lot of Native American books. I've got Native American decorations in my bedroom. For some reason, I've always felt this connection, even though, as I said, my ancestry does not point in that direction. Well, come to find out that in a past life, I was an Iroquois warrior, and Myken was my significant other in that. And I was able to picture our time together. You could the love was flowing, wasn't surprised. And there's several others. And there are probably hundreds of past lives we've had together. With my session with Bridget, we uncovered she said, well, we're not going to dive into 1,000 stories. We'll pick 3 or 4. And in ancient Rome, we were together. In caveman times, we were together. And it's like, this is all starting to make sense now. And we'll continue to have lives together. Here's one thing. I love telling this story. Of course, the human side of me feels cheated. It's like, damn it, universe, I waited 58 years for this woman to arrive, and you take her away from me 8 months later, and we didn't even have a chance to meet. I am so upset. Now, if you said to me, well, Phil, would you rather have not met her? Well, no, of course. It was such a blessing that I did meet her. And as I said, in a lot of what I've been telling you today, I know I'm spiritually connected. It's wonderful. This isn't a sad story. It's a wonderful story. But again, in my more human moments, I have pity parties. And I said I had another session with Bridget. And I said, I feel really cheated. I I'm hoping that, you know, whatever happens on the other side, I hope we are able to unite. And here's the message that I got. Oh, actually, this wasn't from Bridget. This was from Alia. It was a channel message from Alia. Alia said, Phil Myken knows you feel cheated. Here's what's going to happen. When you cross over, she's going to be the first person to meet you. She's now your lead guardian angel. She'll meet you. Now, a lot of people know or believe that one of the things you do after you pass is go through a life review to show you every scenario you were in and what you could have learned or should have learned or did learn. And this is highly unusual, but she's going to lead you through the life review. Cool. But this is the kicker. This is the cool part. Now, when it comes time to choose my next incarnation, a lot of times, I'll decide like, I want to come back to Earth again as whatever, or I want to go to this constellation instead and be whatever that is. Or I'm going to sign a soul contract with these 7 people. Well, here's the upshot. Myken said when it comes time to pick our next incarnation or iteration, we're going to choose it together. And
Wow.
in the next life, we are going to be together. It's going to be like one of those, they meet in grade school and they're a couple all through high school, and then they're going to be married for 60 years, And then Alia said, you might not even come back to Earth. You may go to some place where your existence is like 600 years or 700 years. Don't worry. Whatever you feel you lost out on here is going to be more than made up for. And you know what? Again, and I'm sure you believe this as well. it isn't necessarily a past, present, and future thing. This is all happening simultaneously. I'm already with her together. I'm with her now in the past life. I'm with her now in future life. Um, and I thought that was so wonderful to hear that. And I so look forward to it. Not that I'm rushing to get out of here, but that really, really heartens me. So that's what's coming for me,
So,
apparently.
so if she is your twin flame, can people have more than one? Is it possible?
See, first of all, I don't think she's my twin flame. I discount the theory of twin flames. I think she's one of my soulmate. I think she's my well.
Soulmate. Yeah.
These are all human labels. But here's what I think about twin flames. I know people are brought into our life, good, bad, and ugly, to learn lessons. But I think the concept of twin flames is for the birds. I came across a woman who had posted a video on TikTok about her twin flame journey and how she was being treated very badly by her twin flame. And then she woke up one day, and again, she was like Myken, where she thought, well, these are lessons for me to learn. Well, one day she woke up and said, you know what? You don't need to be battered and abused and treated like a nothing to learn lessons. You can learn lessons from positive relationships as well as negative. I don't subscribe to this whole twin flame. And you know what? At that point, I'm like, aha, that's exactly what I think. You don't need
Okay.
to, you don't need to be verbally or physically abused to learn lessons. And so I've discounted the whole twin flame thing. I don't think your primary relationship has to be tumultuous. I don't believe in that at all. So I don't think of Myken as my twin flame. Um, I think of her as my main soulmate, and that's just my human interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'm just wondering, like, okay, so soulmate, yes. If twin flame would more be like your teacher, they're more the aggressor coming to teach you some kind of lesson you wanted to learn for yourself. So if you were to find somebody else, or say I'm still in a human body, I mean, do I need to hold on? Would she be okay with that, or would you be okay with that?
interesting question. And yes, I've learned a lot from her. She is my teacher. At first, people were saying, "Oh, Phil, you'll meet somebody else," and I'm thinking, well, first of all, I'm still grieving. I'm not ready for that. I'm not looking for that. And I don't want that. I don't think I could handle that. And I said, plus, even if another woman came in, wouldn't that almost be like cheating on Myken? Wouldn't Myken be jealous? And again, this friend Bridget that I told you about, she said, Phil, that's not how it works. People on the other side, it's all about love. We are love at our essence. And don't you think Myken would want to see you be happy? And I said, yes. Myken is going to orchestrate it. Well, when you're ready, she's already told me she's going to set you up. Don't worry about it. You don't even have to look. As a matter of fact, she's going to bring you several choices, and you'll have your pick of the litter. I'm thinking, no, 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 don't bring me several. Just bring me one. That'd be fine. And now I'm actually open to that. It's
Okay.
been it's been, let's see, December 2022. So here it is, what, September 2024. So it's almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for it. I'm open to that possibility. Whereas before I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to go there. Now it's like, hey, if Mike can bring somebody into my life, and I'm guessing she will because she's opened up all these other doors for me, then I'm willing to go in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So she had the opportunity to make peace with whether she's staying or whether she's going, but the other person also goes through a grieving process. And I know that there's the 5 stages of grief. Did you go through those 5 stages as well?
Absolutely. And it's funny, you don't, and this is just my take. You don't go through one, master it, and go to the next, and then all of a sudden you've gone through all five. And no, there are times when you think you've gotten over um, the oh, I can't think of the word, where you don't believe
The,
it's, you're,
the loss,
pardon me?
the loss.
The disbelief, like the disbelief, like that didn't happen. You're like, it's a mirage. I thought I got beyond it,
Denial.
but I wake up some days and I'm still in disbelief, like this isn't real. I'm waiting for the phone to ring. So I absolutely went through the 5 stages and continue to go through them. But as you go along, grief doesn't go away. You just learn how to manage it better and live with it. And thankfully, again, because Myken is here, there are days when I tell this story to a person for the first time and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You must be so down." And I'm like, "No, I'm great. She's with me, life has never been better." And I know, it's unusual to hear that because I never thought I would feel that way. I thought I'd
Yeah,
feel, but because
yeah,
it's been so amazing and I feel her presence,
yeah.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, I think that people think that once you've passed on, that you're gone forever. You haven't. You've just changed form.
That's right.
And I think society for so long have been taught to stay away from death. It's a subject you don't talk about. You don't get to witness it. You know, if people need to go somewhere, they go quietly, they get put in a hospital or a home somewhere. You don't talk about it. It's too scary. It's too sad. You don't want to upset your parents or whoever. And it's just a part of life.
Indeed. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I'm reading a book right now, written by a hospice nurse, where she said that everybody here is going to die, and we all pretend like it's not going to happen or that we can push it off indefinitely and don't face it. And that's the worst thing possible because when all of a sudden you're faced with it, we're not prepared.
No,
We're not
and they're
prepared.
living in
And
people are
and not
living in
only the
fear.
person that's dying, but family members are not prepared. They're not used
Yeah,
to talk. It's a taboo subject, and you're absolutely right, Natasha. We need to learn to normalize it into everyday conversation. And that's another blessing that's been brought to me. I no longer fear death thanks to this
yeah,
situation. I know, I always had a feeling that no, like, our soul must go on. You can't kill off energy. It must continue in some other form. I always believed that to some extent. Now I know it for sure. And another piece of this is I want to start getting involved. I'm not sure how. I know there are trainings you can take to become end of life doulas or death doulas. And I'm thinking I want to do that with my experience. I think I want to help people talk more about this. And that's why I'm so glad you're having me on today. I want to be able to share, like, oh my God, Phil lost somebody, but look at what a blessing it is. I want them to not fear it. As Myken said, this was her motto. In everything, I'm going to choose love over fear. As a matter of fact, when she was, I was going to say dying. We don't like to use the word dying. As she was getting ready to exit, we decided to put together a group of people, her supporters, and we made T-shirts for all of us to wear. And the T-shirt said, "Myken's Warrior Tribe. I am the supporter choosing love over fear." And that became our mantra. And I wear the T-shirt all the time. And that's kind of the message I want to spread to people. So I'm grateful for this opportunity I'm hoping people watching this, if they've lost somebody, rethink this whole thing. Like, I know we're human. We miss the person. We grieve the person. We want to hold the person. We want the person to be with us to enjoy what we're enjoying. If I'm enjoying something in life, wouldn't it have been so much better if my significant other was here to share it? But I want them to rethink it like, no, they're still with you. And even in a more powerful way than our human brains can comprehend. And it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, I think grief blocks you off from the ability to perceive them there. As soon as you allow yourself to realize that there is something, then you start to see it. You're making space for them to be there again.
Yes, yes. And so I give myself credit for that because if I hadn't been open to this, if I hadn't lit the candle for 5 days in a row, if I hadn't bought into these signs and synchronicities and people that have come into my life and opportunities. Now, there are people that, and I can't prove it for a fact. I can tell you all day long that I know Myken is with me and Myken orchestrated this and she set up that. I may be wrong, but I decided at one point that, you know what? I would rather be right. I would rather have these beliefs and find out afterwards that Phil, you were wrong. None of that was true. Myken wasn't with you. I'd rather be wrong and have my mindset now than the other way around.
Yeah.
And I do believe it's true. Do I have any proof? I told you the Cardinal story. you might say, oh, that was definitely Myken. Or you might say, Phil, it's a coincidence. Birds fly around. It just happened to come. That's not Myken. I'm choosing to believe that that was her. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to serve me well. Now, there's some people that said, well, that's just your human frailty. We clutch onto things because about the uncertainty and the fear. And, isn't it much more comforting to think Myken's here than not here? Isn't it much more comforting to think that our soul does go on and life just doesn't end poof? Um, and there's probably some truth to that, but because of things I've experienced, I now have a very different take on it. I think life and love goes on.
Well, I've had so many guests on the show that can tell you that it definitely does. And
Indeed.
that's just your logical brain saying it can't be because it can't comprehend such a thing. And
Yeah,
that's the ego mind.
indeed. I agree
Just because
100%
it
with that.
can't conceive doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm convinced. And it's a choice we make. At one point I chose, well, I can either believe this or not believe it. I'm going to choose to believe it. Right, wrong, or
Yeah.
indifferent.
Yeah.
It brings me comfort. But on some level, but put that aside, we have a knowing because we're infinite beings. If we put aside the ego, as you said earlier, and really tap in, and that's what I've been doing. I've been really tapping in. There's a knowing. I know
Yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going with.
Well, and the thing is, the more you tap into it, the stronger it gets. The more
Absolutely.
intuitive you become, the more the signs start showing themselves because you're trusting in the universe. You're getting out of your own way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because as I said, I want to kind of keep Myken's legacy alive, but I'm not a medium. I'm not an oracle card reader. I don't, I never thought I had particularly any incredible intuitive skills of any kind. But guess what? I've now started reading oracle cards. I meditate.
Excellent.
I've gotten into this, and it's funny. And Myken keeps giving me messages. I have oracle card decks. I have several gifted oracle card decks, and every time I have a session with somebody or talk to her myself, Myken is always playfully scolding with me to pull more cards and not just to get messages from her. She says, if you pull more cards in practice, that'll build up your intuitive
Yeah.
skills. And
Yeah.
that will make it easier to not only connect with her, but to connect with my higher self and my soul team collective and be able to help people better. I have to admit, I'm kind of bad. I'm like a kid who doesn't do his homework because it's like I'll go days and days and days without pulling cards or without
So
tapping
do
in.
do we
And
get a
and
card
my friend
reading?
Bridget will say, Mike is saying you got to practice more with the cards. And it's like, I know, I know.
So do we get a card reading?
Well, would you like one?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
always.
great. I'll give you a choice. I have four different decks. I have
Okay.
the Gateway of Light activation deck. I have the Energy and Spirit Oracle deck. And then I have two love decks that were given to me. The Romance Angels by Doreen Virtue. And this is an Oracle slash tarot card deck, the Psychic Tarot for the Heart Oracle deck.
Let's go with that one.
You want this one?
We're on
Okay.
the romance, so let's do romance.
Now, yes, good point. Now, when I first did this, I would read the card, and then there's a little booklet that comes with it, and I'd read the description. It's like, no, 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 that's not how you do it. What you do is you feel into the card, you look at the card, and before even reading the book, just say what comes to you, what you're feeling about it, and tell the person, like, I'm sensing that, you can describe the card like, oh, there's a beautiful angel with wings spread wide, and there's a sun behind, you can explain what the card is, and then really tap in. And this is where Myken said she'll help me. She'll help me really tap in, zone in, and give the reading based on your own intuitive notions. And then you can read the book to see whether it either confirms or adds on to what you said. So that's how I'm going to do it. Okay.
Okay,
Are you ready, Natasha?
I'm ready.
Okay. Put the book aside. Okay. Here's the deck. And I've told there's several ways you can do it as far as how you shuffle. And I kind of do it until it feels good to stop. Now, there's others that say spread it out in front of you and then place your hand over it. And when your hands start tingling, pick that card. I've tried that. I've been playing around and trying different ways of doing it. But today, because of the essence of time, I won't drag this out too far. So let me tap in and see. And I know about if a card hops out, you really need to pick that one. But okay. Here's your card. Oh, and I can show it to you. I forgot again. Find balance. Here's your card.
Okay.
Find balance. Now let me tap into it. I don't have to describe it to you because I just showed it to you. Now, as you can see, well, I'll show it to you. As you can see, there's kind of all these little pockets, and I see swirling going on. So I'm guessing, Natasha, like many other people, you're spinning many plates at the same time and trying to keep them all going at the same time. Things are crazy. Many people in life are trying to juggle a lot of things at once, and it can become very, very overwhelming. And we have to be able to take a step back. Now, that's the hardest thing, because when you're juggling, if I say take a step back from the plate, you're like, no, then they're all going to fall. We need to take a step back, look at it for what it is, and realize, okay, maybe I can get some help with this. Maybe the plates aren't spinning as out of control as I think they are. I think balance is the key. A lot of times we will focus on one particular plate. I keep using the plate analogy. I'm not sure why. A lot of times we'll place our focus on one of the plates. And that makes it even worse, because if it is true that these plates are all flying around, well, we're ignoring the 5 or 6 other plates. We're placing too much emphasis on this one. If we take a step back and put an equal amount of time and energy into each, one at a time, not all at once. I think in order to get on top of anything in life, there are a lot of people that pride themselves on multitasking. Multitasking is not a good skill to have. Multitasking means you're paying a quarter of attention to this, and you're not paying full attention to anything when you're multitasking. You should do everything one at a time. So I'm trying to figure out let me tap into you and see whether this is an issue for you, as far as whether you're overwhelmed or whether you tend to be a multitasker. Let me close my eyes a little bit. Myken, can you help me with this? I'm sensing it's kind of a 50-50 thing. There are times when you are in balance and you've got a good handle on everything that's going on. But there are other times, but I think that's all human beings. There are other times when it starts getting out of control and it can be very, very overwhelming. But because you have been a place where there are times when you do have a good handle on it, remind yourself of that. When you are in a position where you're very overwhelmed and there's so many decisions to make and things going on, take a step back, take a breath, and remind yourself that, hey, I've been in these situations before. I've been able to handle it. I'll get on top of this. I just have to remember everything in life is a balance. And it's so true. When we're down, everything in life balances out too. Here's another piece of this. Let's say it's a scale. When we're down, it seems like we're always going to be down. But in life, for balance, it's inevitable that it's going to go back up again to balance out, because we talked earlier about being here to learn lessons. If we were always down, we wouldn't learn anything. If we were always up, we wouldn't learn anything. The only way to know up is to know down. The only way to know down is to know up. So all of life is about balancing. And that's how we're going to be able to serve our highest and greatest good. So that's what kind of came channeling through to me. Now let's read the book and see what it says. Unless you want to make a comment before I read the book.
I think it's pretty accurate so far.
Okay.
I don't even think you need to read the book.
Oh, see, that's funny. Myken has told me that, and Bridget has told me that, and I have a friend, CK, who's told me that. Phil, you're going to get to a point where we don't want you to read the book. Go with your gut, because the book may say something completely different, which will have you doubting your intuitive abilities. Like, wow, I was way off with that. I like to look at the book right now as a little bit of a crutch because I'm still going through a learning process. And if it confirms what I say, that's terrific. If it doesn't, I'm guessing it'll provide additional information that will help. I don't want to be the be all end all, like you got to listen to what I say and everything I just said is the only thing you need to hear and you don't need to hear anything else. I don't want to be that way, at least for now. So if you'll
No
indulge
problem.
me, darn it, I'm going to read the card. Okay.
It's okay.
Card
We'll do
number.
it.
What's that?
We'll do it. Let's do the book.
Okay, let's see. Oh, wait a minute. It says card number 2 is find balance, but in the book, card number 2 is listen. Right.
See, it's not in the book.
Right. Okay. I'm going to put the book as that's that. See, that's
So,
the sign was right there, not to read the book because the number didn't match up with the book. So I am not going to read the book. So did that resonate with you,
yes.
Natasha? And if so, please tell me how it resonated.
You know, let's start with the reading part of it. If you are feeling the information coming through and you're getting an image, then go with the image because it's not wrong. You're picking up on something that you already picked up on. You're doubting yourself. So, but that's from the reading side point of view.
Yeah.
From my side point of view is that, yeah, I tend to do a lot of things and I've got a lot of things going on at one time, at any given time. But I do know how to step back and I do know how to relax. But there are days that I think, why? I feel like I'm doing the work of 10 people because I know I'm so capable. But it does take away. It puts a lot of strain on the system. And I think, why do I put that on myself? Because it's unnecessary.
But
So,
do you
yeah.
learn when you're in those kind of situations?
I would say, on any off time that I have, I spend 90% of my time in self-inquiry. So, yes.
Let me ask you this, and this is kind of related to the reading, but also related to I have a very similar personality where sometimes I resent that I have to do 10 different things, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm very capable and I only trust myself to do those 10 things. So I many times put myself in that situation, then complain that I put myself in that situation. That's kind of what I'm hearing from you. Am I right?
Yeah. So my new realization is, why do I do that?
And what's the answer?
Why do I need to make so much work when you can go direct? And I think it was just because I think that it's fun to do it the hard way. Why go easy when you could go hard?
Oh, interesting.
So now I have decided, and I had another call with my previous interview was exactly about that. It's like, I don't want to do hard anymore. It doesn't mean that I don't mind hard work. It just means that there are easier ways without having to push, It's rather just step back and allow. So you're spot on.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's very encouraging. And I love to hear that because, of course, I'm going to have doubts. As I said before, when I was explaining, I said, well, I'm not an oracle card reader. Well, again, all my friends keep correcting me like, Phil, we all have intuitive abilities. Anybody can do this. It's a matter of believing it, tapping into it, practicing it. They're like, it's a muscle like anything else. You've got to practice it. So Myken, first of all, is very proud that I pulled a card and I'm practicing. And I'm thrilled that I was kind of spot on there. But even if I wasn't, it's okay. I'm still learning and I'm still building my skills. So thanks for the opportunity to be able to do that for you. That was unexpected and it was very nice.
And thank you, and thank Myken too.
Yes, I always look up at the ceiling. Well, here's the funny. I have to, and I mentioned this in my book. Anytime I have in my living, I'm in my living room right now, and I won't show it to you. I have a vent in my ceiling where the air conditioning and the heat comes out. And for whatever reason, I always look up at the vent when I talk to Myken, as if for some reason it either represents her or I think she's hovering there. But it's become kind of funny in that, why do I always stare up at the vent? It's like, Myken, you just, instead of looking at you saying, well, thank you, Myken, I looked up at the vent to say, thank you, Myken. And I wrote that in the book as a little humorous aside. But
So,
thank you, Myken.
yeah, thank you. Um, how would you say to people that are in grief that are not able to connect? Because I see a lot of people that are saying they're looking for signs and they're not getting them.
I think the signs are there, but they're well, this is just my take. I may be wrong. I think signs are always there, but they're more subtle than you think they'd be. I think a lot of us, when they say I'm looking for a sign, want something big. And, I was lucky I had the cardinal. There may be other people that hear that, like I was hoping to see a cardinal and I didn't see a cardinal. And I asked my loved one to bring me a cardinal. Um, Very small things. You need to pay more attention. There are things like angel numbers. I'm sure you're familiar with angel number,
Yeah.
a sequential number. Let's say you're feeling particularly down and you're thinking, gee, I wish Joe was still here, and you happen to glance at the clock and it's 11:11. Um, you may discount that. That was a sign. Little things. I now read license plates of cars all the time to see if they spell something out that may be a message from Mike. And I read street signs. When I drive around, I'm always like, well, I keep my eyes on the road mostly, but I look around to see if there's I think the people that aren't getting signs don't open themselves up enough to pick up on signs. And as I said, they're sometimes so small, they'd be very easy to miss. You got to look for them more. If
Yeah.
somebody comes back to me and says, Phil, I'm looking all the time and I still don't get it, I'm not sure how to answer that. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, Natasha.
I'm
I
with you.
think we all get signs.
I'm
You
with you. And I
agree?
mean, sometimes you can ask to see a specific thing, like a bird or a butterfly or something that maybe reminded you. It could be a color.
Yes,
And if you are more specific and you see it, then it would be more feedback to validate that versus just saying, well, show me something because you don't know what you're looking for.
that's true. That is true. Um, but we're all in our different spots. And believe me, I wish that if you gave me a room full of people that were hoping to connect the way I connect with Mike and are convinced that they're just not getting the signs, I would love to be able to wave a magic wand or give them whatever piece of information that I've learned um, to make it magically so for them, where all of a sudden they call me the next day saying, oh my God, Phil, after meeting with you, I did get a sign from Joe.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I want to pursue maybe working in this field, is to be able to learn skills on not only how to help people and use my own story or our story as inspiration, but to learn how to answer questions when people are convinced that, well, either convinced that life doesn't continue or are convinced that it does, but are very distraught because they're not getting signs and messages. I don't know how to answer that right now. I would love to do more research on that and find out ways I can help people, with that conundrum.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of places to go and, lots of choice. So I think you're on the right path.
Okay.
And the book's a good start. I mean, so where can people get hold of the book?
Oh, well, I didn't want this to be an ad for
Oh,
the book.
absolutely, absolutely share.
Okay, again, it's called oops, Heartstrings into Infinity, a story of eternal love. I self-published it on Amazon, and you can get
Nice.
it in 3 different ways on Amazon. All you need to do is go to Amazon.com and type in Heartstrings to Infinity. I have it available as a paperback. I have it available as an ebook. And I also recorded an audio book, and I'm very happy
Nice.
about that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have a lot of friends that said, Phil, it takes me forever to read a book, or I don't like reading. Could you make it into an audiobook? And that's when I work out, I listen to books. Could you record it? And I decided, yes, I will do that. But I wanted to make sure it was in my voice. Somebody said, oh, you need to hire a voice actor. No, I did it myself. I narrated it myself, and I think it came out very well. So it's also available on both Amazon and Audible in that format. And then there's one more thing. I have a website. It's called heartstringsbook.com, where you can order an autographed copy, an
Nice.
autographed paperback.
Yeah, nice.
I'll sign a copy for you. And The autograph's got to be at least worth $1 or $2 if you try to resell it on eBay or something. So there you got that. But thank you
Awesome.
for letting me share that.
Yeah, and if people want to get hold of you, can they get hold of you via the website as well?
They can. Heartstringsbook.com, and it has all my contact information. Well, it has my email address. So if you email me, I will get back to you. And I might as well tell you the email. It's phil0822 at AOL.com. And it's interesting. I'm so pleased with the book because it seems to be touching a lot of people. A lot of I gave a lot of authors get pre-copies before it was actually published on August 13th. But I got a whole bunch of copies in July, and I asked friends to read it and review it just to kind of test the waters. And they've all been telling me how wonderful it is. Now, I've had a friend say, well, of course they're going to tell you it's wonderful, Phil. They're your friends. They're not going to tell you it's crummy. I said, but I can tell the difference because they don't just say, oh, Phil, that was really good, and leave it at that. I've had friends email me and say, hey, Phil, do you have a couple of minutes to hop on the phone? I have so many thoughts about the book I want to share with you and so many questions. Can we hop on a call to talk about it? I have a friend who emailed me and said, oh my God, I was taking notes as I was reading the book because I have all these things I want to say to you. Like she said, Phil, when you were deciding whether to fly out to Arizona or not to take care of Mike, and I was screaming at the book, like, you got to go out, you got to go out. And then when you said you didn't go out, I was so disappointed. I wanted to pick up the phone right away. And then I have others that said, oh my God, I have friends that didn't know this story, that know me
Yeah.
very well, but they didn't know this story. And they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. They're like, this is a side of you. We didn't even know you were spiritual. This is a side. They feel like they've gotten to know me. So it isn't just, yeah, Phil, that was great. A lot of people, it really seems to resonate with them, and that does my heart good.
Yeah.
So thank you
And I
again,
know
Myken.
also that people that are writing, it's kind of a learning process for yourself as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just been amazing. And you can tell from everything I've shared, this has just been, and the interesting thing is that I'm one of those, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But I meant that specifically about me. It's like, I've seen it all. I know it all. I have my life view. There's a way I view the world, and that's not going to change at this point in my life. Well, oh my God, thanks to Myken and everything she's taught me, not only while she was here, but since passing, I have a completely different worldview. And that's been like, wow, I'm so glad. I thought I knew it all. I don't know anything. Well, or I'm relearning, or I'm learning more positive ways to look at the world. As I said, I look at death differently. I look at relationships differently. Um, I look at and I often say that Myken has turned my world upside down, but in a good way. So I'm so
Yeah.
grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So, Phil, before we go, do you have a message for our audience?
Do I have a message for my audience? Oh, so many. Let's see. As I said, I tend to ramble on and on as this as this
No,
podcast has
I'm
shown.
enjoying it.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too. Me too. I always enjoy having an opportunity to share this story. Um, I'm going to just share the quote once again, and it's on the back of the book. It's it's how I created the title. Again, it's a lady by the name of Terry Guillemets, and the quote is, "Those we love and lose are always connected by heartstrings into infinity." Um, Again, I'm guessing that many people watching this do believe that, we continue on in some form or fashion and have different ideas of what that might look like. Um, but I want to give everybody here a knowing that it's so true. Keep clinging on to that, because when we get caught up in our humanness, we start doubting it. We get into a funk, and I backslide too. Just because I've learned all this new stuff doesn't mean I have it all figured out. Doesn't mean I'm always joyful. Um, so I want to encourage people to tap into that and follow their own path to come to this, to come to the same place I'm at now. I would hope everybody experiences the amazing magical stuff I've experienced. So I wish everybody who's watching this much peace and love, and enjoy the ride.
Thank
How's
you.
that?
Lovely. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story and for putting it out there and being vulnerable about it. Because, somebody, like you say, could mock it or, diminish it in some way or shape or form, but it's real. And it doesn't matter if you know someone for a day or for a lifetime. It doesn't matter.
It's
You know.
true. Thank you for saying both those things. And I know you wanted to end there, but very quickly. I do have friends that have read it and it doesn't resonate at all. They don't believe anything. Um, and I was worried about that because I did feel very vulnerable. When I first wrote the book, I thought to myself, you know what? I need to write this for the reasons I mentioned before. If it sells 2 copies, I don't care. If people love it or hate it, I don't care. All of a sudden, when it came time to publish it, I started caring a lot because I felt very vulnerable. I'm sharing pieces of me that lots of people close to me don't know. This is a very vulnerable, even taking the spirituality aside, it's a very raw story about love and loss. And it was difficult to write it in some ways, as far as having to relive some of the more difficult moments. But all of a sudden, I'm like, I want everybody to love it, and I want 1 million people to know the story. And so I had to let go of that as well. I needed to let go of both and come to the conclusion that whatever happens, it's going to reach whomever it needs to reach. I'm going to have opportunity. I may reach out to another podcast host who turns me down. That's fine. I reached out to you. Your viewers now know this story, and I'm hoping it touches many of them. If it touches no one, well, at least I had this opportunity. I'm going to let it play out as it will, just like everything else in life. And I can't remember the other point I was going to make, so I will land my plane there, as they say.
Well, anyway, I think you should go investigate the path of maybe death doula or something like that, because I think it's a step. See where it takes you. I don't know.
I've been strongly considering that, so thank you for affirming that.
Yeah.
I'm going to look into that more, and I'll let you know when and if I become one.
Yeah, do that, and I'll work on my balance.
Yes, well, yes, please. I'm going to throw that back at you. No,
It's actually interesting.
you've got this. You've got this, Natasha.
You
I
know
have
what is
faith
so
in you.
interesting? I've just been thinking, like, I've been losing my balance lately, like literally.
Oh,
And and that's just really interesting. I don't think that's an accident either. Yeah.
of course it isn't. We know that by now. There are no accidents.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
coincidences.
Okay. Well, thank you again. It was lovely hearing your story. It was lovely meeting you.
You as
I'll,
well. And thanks again for the opportunity. Big heart.
yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, and let me know when you become whatever the next step is. You don't have to do that, but I just think it's good.
I want to
And
do
no regrets.
something.
No
I'm called
regrets.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do something. Maybe I'll work for a hospice organization. It's something. I'll do
Yeah.
something.
Ask Myken to tell you, to send you guidance, opportunity, because nothing you choose is wrong. There's no wrong choice.
You're right. You're right. Yes. Please help me figure out. Yes. So of course she's going to open many doors for me.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well,
Great,
have a
Natasha.
fantastic rest of your day. Chat
You as
soon.
well. Much love.
Keep on. Bye
Bye.
bye. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel below. It helps YouTube to send you more content like this, and you'll be the first to know when a new video is released. To watch my most recent uploads, click on the cards above.